guys, welcome back to my channel. It's day 5. How's that gone fast? Like, I know it's only 5 days, but 5 days seems like a lot longer than what this has felt. I don't know, maybe it's just me. So today's video is going to be on hitchhiking ghosts. It's kind of like an urban myth, I suppose, and everyone's heard the typical one about, and this girl asked me for a lift, and then halfway there she said, and this is where I died. So we're all kind of used to that kind of story. Now in the UK, one of the most haunted roads is actually in Wales. So this is the A467, it's between Abertillery and Aberby. Now they've actually considered taking this road off and cancelling it as a route to anywhere because of the activity that goes on there, but in the end it ended up being such a needed road that they just left it there. Now I don't have any stories about that particular road, which is weird because you can't find any on it, but a road that I do have a story on is the A40. Now there was a guy from Pembrokeshire driving home and he'd actually gone on a date, but it had gone really bad. Okay, so he was in a bit of a mood. He's in a bit of a strop. You know when things go wrong, you're just driving, you're not really taking note of anything, are you? So he was driving down a dark road and on the side of it he saw this woman and he described her as like a really beautiful woman. So he pulled over, he was like, come in, I'll give you a lift home, it's all gonna be fine. But he couldn't keep it in his trousers and ended up stopping at a public toilet to have his way with her. She was fully into it, don't get me wrong. Now once they stopped to go into this public toilet, they got in there, then she started to do undescribable things to him. Now this is how I've read the story. I don't know how bad that must be for him to be like, they were undescribable. I'm not really sure what that means. But apparently she started to go hell for leather on him, and then that's when shit went down. He started to smell cigarette smoke. But he said that it was so strong that it started to suffocate him and then he couldn't get out. And he said that everything started to get really hazy in there. He said, and I quote, "I thought I was going to die. I was crying and everything. I was passing out." And he said that he kept wanting like a police officer to come and knock on the door or something to say let whoever's in there out. Then he said all of a sudden he got the strength to push this woman back. Now she was so strong, he couldn't understand how she was so strong. But as he pushed her back and she fell backwards, it ended up not being a beautiful woman like he'd seen on the side of the street, but it was an old hag who had like a skin condition on her face. And then he said he just screamed and screamed and screamed until she vanished. How weird is that? Imagine looking at someone, they have one face and then the next minute they have another. Now there's actually a really local story that I can share with you guys. Behind my house there's a road and it's called the Common, or that's what we call it anyway. I suppose most places have a common. And I said that a lady in her 20s had a relationship with a man whose parents lived just off the Common. Now to describe the road and then the houses are probably about a mile and a half off the road, and it's just one long drive. You have to drive up to get there. If you were to walk up the drive it would probably take about 5 minutes maybe, especially if it was dark. Now the relationship was starting to crack at the foundations and she decided that maybe she didn't want to be with this guy anymore, and she phoned him and she was like, I'm coming over, we need to talk. This was back in the day where they didn't have mobile phones. So she went there and she kind of went inside for a little bit. He lived in his parents' house. And she said to him, I don't think this is working, maybe we should just call it off, I don't really want to be with you anymore. And apparently this guy just saw red and he started to, you know, shout at her, row with her, beg her for her back. And she left the house. So she ran out the front of the house with the intention to run as fast as she could, as fast as she could. Now he chased her out of the house. And this was apparently all seen by the neighbour who lived next door. He actually caught up with her and the neighbour said it was at that point she saw that he had a knife in his hand. He told her, you can have one more chance and if you don't leave me, I won't kill you. But she stuck to her guns and she said, I don't want to be with you, you're not going to kill me. As the neighbours got a little bit closer to try and save her, he actually shouted at her, if I can't have you, then nobody can. And he actually stabbed her once into her stomach. Now, she actually ran the whole mile and a half apparently. This is a myth, okay? So don't go being like, oh my god Lucy, but if she had a knife inside her, she would have died before she reached it. I know, it's a myth. We don't know if it's true, do we? So she apparently ran from the house to the road with the knife still inside her, holding her stomach. And when she got to the road, there was somebody sat there in a blue car, and she saw them and waved them down. She died in the person's arms who pulled over to save her. And it said that if you drive across the common late at night in a blue car, then she ends up in the back of your car and you see her in your interior mirror. Every time I drive across the common, which is so often, I'm checking the back of my car just to see that she's not there. I even see myself switch on my interior lights just to double check. So if you have a blue car and you're driving across the common late at night, check your mirror. Now, my grandparents don't believe in ghosts, my mother does. And when my mother was younger, her sister and her parents were going to Pembroke for the weekend in a chalet. And when they were driving, they saw a woman on the side of the road. Now she had like this big dress on, and it was like a party dress type of thing, but it was kind of clenched at the waist and then it went out far. And she had this massive hat on as well, and they had all flowers around the rim of the hat. And my grandfather is like this type of person, he'll help anyone. So he saw it and he was like, let's pull over and help. And my nan was a little bit like, oh, Gerald, really? And my mother and Rian were just like, oh, kind of rolling their eyes in the back. And he was like, you can both move aside and she can sit in between you. I don't know why you put the woman in between them, to be fair. He opened the door, she got in the car, and my mother said that all she could smell was like manure. Like she smelled like really bad, and the bottom of her dress was all covered in mud as well. So my grandfather was like, where are you going? We can give you a lift. And she was like, I'm going to a party. So he was kind of like, okay. Which was weird to start, because you wouldn't go to a party in a dress covered in manure, would you? My mother also said that the outfit she had on resembled a Victorian era dress. I don't know why they let this girl in the car. I really don't. So my grandfather drove a few miles until he reached another field, and she was like, oh, this'll do. And he was kind of like, this is just another field. Do you want me to drop you off at the actual place? I can drive you up to a drive or whatever you want me to do. And she was like, no, it's fine, thank you. I'm good here. So my grandfather just pulled over. This woman got out of the car and walked into the field, like into the next field. And my mother swears to this day that she wasn't alive, that she was definitely a ghost hitchhiker. Have you guys ever experienced a ghost hitchhiker? Or have you got any stories that are kind of local to you, where people have said they've got ghost hitchhikers? If you have, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories too. Thank you guys for watching today. I've really enjoyed telling these stories actually, because they're so like local and they're so personal to me. But I hope you guys have enjoyed too. If you have, let me know in the comments. Remember to subscribe if you're new. If you like my videos, please leave a thumbs up. I always enjoy making them for you anyway. And remember guys, never let anyone dull your sparkle.
It's not for me to say you